We're ready to go. Good evening, everyone here and everybody on Zoom. I'd like to call to order the Westlake Master Association Annual and Open Board Meeting Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. I will give you the roll. Oh, no, we have microphones. So we'll have a roll call starting with Marjorie.
Marjorie Italianti, Treasurer.
Bill Moran, Secretary.
Okay. Hit this one.
There you go.
Can you hear me now? Lauren Philippek, Vice President.
Joe Tutuli, President.
Bonnie Verman, Trustee.
Colin Parks, Trustee.
Margaret Gordon, Trustee.
All right, then I'll just ask everyone to stand. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, before we go any further, I'm going to suspend for a while the business portion of this meeting and turn it over to Steve.
Thank you, Joe. As many of you know, hopefully you watched a little bit this morning, at 10 a.m. We opened up the election proceedings with ballot counting beginning by 3 judges, Arlene Beck, Al Ferrantino, and Joyce Winter. At that point in time, I administered the oath of judge to them, which states that I solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of judge with respect to the ballots in accordance with Article 3, Section 3.10 of the bylaws, with strict impartiality and according to the best of my ability. All 3 judges signed the oath, and we began the counting process. So I do want to thank them for their time today. We started at 10 a.m. and went through about 6 p.m. So they were there, opening it, and it's a pretty tedious process. So I do thank them very much for donating their time today. So this was the largest group of candidates running for the board in the history of Westlake. Communities like West only function when there are those willing to serve and commit their time and energy. So I'd also like to thank all the candidates for stepping up to represent their community. And so with that, I will announce the details of today's election. The judges of the election report that the following number of absentee, proxies, and official ballots received was 839 ballots. It represented over 3,200 individual votes today. The quorum for the community to certify the election is 20%. That's roughly 284 homes. So we had a quorum for the election. The results of the election in order of the highest vote totals and down are as follows. 494 votes, Joe Tutuli. 448 votes, Madge Gordon. 431 votes, Larry Usden. 417 votes, Colin Parks. 278 votes, Marjorie Rappaport. 277 votes, Frank Valenti. 273 votes, Joe Palumbo. 222 votes, Billy Trupia. 107 votes, Maxine Crespi. 91 votes, Randy Volbrecht. 76 votes, Lance Leibowitz. 70 votes, Lynn Wexler. 37 votes, Ray Komar. With that, we also had a series of write-in votes, which the law allows. We had 1 vote for Sharon Wolf, 1 vote for Phil Berman, and one vote each for Mo, Larry, and Curly. So, congratulations to Joe Tatuli, Madge Gordon, and Larry Usden on their election to a 3-year term to the Board of Trustees beginning January 1st, 2026. I'd also like to congratulate Colin Parks on his election to the Board of Trustees for a 1-year term beginning January 1st, 2026. I need a motion from the board to ratify the election results.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Second for Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, that's your board for 2026. All right. I think that's it for you, Steve? All right. Before the next order of business is approval of the minutes. Colin, I'm going to turn it over to Colin because he found something that we need to change in the minutes.
Thank you. This is to do, sorry, is that on? Under the page 3, the ballroom updates, there was a number recorded of $716,000 for the claim that Westlake has made. I am speaking into it. So it's to do with the ballroom claim for the insurance. It's recorded as $716,000. In fact, the number is $1,117,000, rounded to thousands.
Okay, so with that change, we'll ask for a motion to approve with that change.
So moved.
All right, Bill Moran, second by Bonnie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed? Okay. Thank you. There are no committee reports tonight. Let me see now, the next order of business is for discussions of the action items, which there isn't any, and/or the new business section. To assist the residents providing thorough answers, the board requests any questions to be submitted in advance by the end of the day on Tuesday, October 21st. We do have questions, but they are not, oh, wait a minute, I think they do. They do. Marge, I think you have one to read about the reserve study. Yep. Excuse us, we didn't have time to make copies or anything. There were just a lot of things going on today, so we're sharing.
Okay. This question is from Michael Hayes, 27 Pine Valley Road. Can we get an updated reserve study that includes a detailed, comprehensive, objective assessment of all the components in the clubhouse that is not influenced by the impression that Westlake has already decided to do a complete remodel in 2028? This will give us an objective estimate of our projected expenses and allow us to make such more informed reserve funding decision. The format of the final study is up to the Reserve Study Specialists Association reserves and will be exactly like the draft posted to the website.
Okay, thank you, Marge. Okay, so the floor is open for anyone to talk about the new business section, if they have any questions. And not seeing any, I'll close that portion. So let us go to the old business, the reserve transfers, and I'll give it back to Marge.
That I have. Okay, the capital infrastructure account, $41,250, design alternatives, ballroom design development work. $11,200, Candlewood management service, final payment of indoor pool resurfacing. $5,944.34, high-tech landscape horseshoe pit renovation. $2,132.50, Reno paving, line striping. $1,140.18, Builders Unlimited, gazebo project progress payment. Doesn't need to
That's
be
it?
ratified.
Okay.
Doesn't ratify.
Okay, we're going to move on to the ratification agenda. The board to ratify approval of items that were approved via email or by discussion between the September and October open sessions. These items do not need to be discussed with the homeowners. However, the board is required to ratify the ratification agenda at an open meeting. A copy of the ratification agenda has been given to all in attendance and the board to ratify, so I need an approval. I need a motion to approve the ratification agenda.
So moved.
Lauren moves, need second by Madge. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It has been passed. Okay, Muse update. I got some pretty exciting news here for the Muse, and I want to thank, I hope Michelle is here, but Michelle Campbell, she attended last Thursday, the Jackson Council. They met and passed the final ordinance, which I have here, regarding the township acceptance of the small portion of land to accommodate the new Muse entrance. The project is moving along quickly and should, according to the township engineer, be completed within a few weeks. This will all have been accomplished as promised by now Mayor Kuhn and Council President Bernstein in our ballroom almost 2 years ago. The financing has been provided by the township's affordable housing funds to give unfettered access into the Muse community. Westlake will provide the redirectional signage, that's the only thing we're paying for, and on the entry wall at the front gate that displays the Muse will be covered by a Westlake shield. So we are moving ahead with that. We should have from the township the dedication papers, the new deed, and everything else that we'll need to sign off on, including, of course, that easement, which is now getting very close to coming to fruition. Okay, ballroom update, Colin.
Thank you. Thank you. So, firstly, the insurance side. We're pushing very hard with Selective, our insurance carrier, to settle this. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow with them. We don't actually know whether they're going to come and try and settle it, but they're asking to see additional items that we've actually claimed that they don't have in their calculations. So, secondly, the contract with Design Alternates, it be developed by our contracts committee, and it's with Design Alternates. They've promised a red line copy back to us tomorrow, and we're looking to close that as quickly as we can by ratifying it, obviously in front of the board and the community, and get to closure with that contract very quickly so that we can continue the design effort. They are working on the concept designs and graphics that are being developed to illustrate the design to the community, but they are currently giving priority to the permit drawings, which is critical to the start of construction, which we're expecting to start in January, as we reported before, and hopeful that will be completed and open by March. However, this depends on the contract negotiations, as the contract has clauses that relate to the completion of work, and it's subject to negotiation. Still more to follow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Concerning the rear deck, a couple of weeks ago, Bill Trupia had asked us, and Colin met with Bill and myself. We incorporated all the pictures that Bill gave us to our independent engineer, Morris. Morris came by, did a walkthrough to look at all the punch list items and to give us a report, which is now due next week, to tell us exactly what they found. And then after that, we will sit down with structural to negotiate a settlement. And that should be within a couple of weeks, but it's all, again, based on, in fact, I mentioned B&G will be at that meeting too. It'll be B&G meeting with Morris along with Colin, and we'll be talking to Structural after that meeting, and we'll have a settlement. And believe me, we're not giving them everything, for sure. Okay, let's go on to new business, and that is, we turn that over to Marge for the 2024 audit.
Okay.
Do you have that, Marge?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The annual audit of 2024. The association's independent audit for 2024 was conducted and prepared by JMG Certified Public Accountants and Advisors. The firm's principal, John Gilliba, met with the Board of Trustees and informed the board that there are no issues during the audit process and that they had issued a clean audit opinion, which is the highest rating an audit can receive. It reported that Westlake ended 2024 with a surplus of revenue over expenses in the amount of $79,831. The audit will be placed on the website for the residents to review starting tomorrow. It's actually on the website now as a draft. Tomorrow, it will be up as the audit.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the audit.
I move to approve the 2024 audit conducted by our auditors.
Second by Bonnie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Marion Security Agreement, and that will be Lauren. L.
Yes, that's my name. Okay. The contract with our gatehouse attendant vendor, Marion Security, expires at the end of the year. Marion Security submitted a one-year renewal proposal at no increase to Westlake. Marion Security to provide gatehouse attendants 24/7 for 365 days, beginning January 1st, 2026, at a cost of $242,396.67, tax inclusive. Like the expiring agreement that we currently are under, should the board make the decision to eliminate the overnight third shift at the gatehouse, Marion Security will reduce the cost of the agreement. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Any
Sec-
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion
All right.
carries.
Bill, you need this, right? You're next. I do apologize again. We've had a busy day. This is for Bill, and this is the Spirit Golf Management Agreement.
It was previously reported that the board had hired Alan Dupuy of Commonwealth Golf Group to assist the golf committee with the development and administration of an RFP process for the Westlake Golf Course contract. The golf committee recommended that the board terminate the existing agreement with our current vendor, Westlake Golf LLC, which is also known as Lynx, and to do that a year earlier than their contract would have otherwise expired. In addition, the golf committee made the recommendation that we accept the bid submitted by Spirit Golf Management. This is a 5-year agreement to run the pro shop, provide golf course maintenance, and pond perimeter maintenance per the scope of the work shared with the residents. The cost for the initial year of the agreement is $1,390,717. The total value of the agreement over 5 years is $7,355. $7,355,138. I move that we approve the award of that contract.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed? Okay, before we move on, Madge, the Contracts Committee has the contract for Spirit, does it not?
One was submitted. I have some questions for Bill a little bit later, because there was no pricing in it. And I couldn't find it in
'Cause
in one of the attachment. I couldn't find the pricing on the contract, so we kind of wanted to have that in there so we could start moving forward with it more thoroughly. So let's talk after this, Bill, and see what we can do, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And as per normal procedure, it will go first to the Contracts Committee, and then once it gets through the Contracts Committee, it will go to our attorney for final approval.
Right. We just want to make sure it's tip-top. Thank you.
All right. Bill, hold on to that paper because you're going to be talking about the assignment of the high-tech snow contract.
I gave it back.
You gave it back to me, all right? I tell you, what a way to run this place. All right, this one's done. This is it here.
The one right underneath it, yes.
In September, mid-September, the owner of High Tech Landscaping informed the board that due to the excessive cost of carrying liability insurance for snow removal, they have canceled all snow removal contracts with all of their clients. That said, the owner provided an alternative solution to the board. C&S Landscapes has been their main subcontractor on the property since the beginning. They spoke to C&S about taking over the snow removal contract with Westlake. C&S has agreed to do this, had provided proof that they carry the exact insurance that High Tech did for Westlake, and C&S would honor the price schedule for 2026 in High Tech's contract. After President Tatulli and Colin Parks met with the owners of both companies, the board recommended assigning the High Tech snow contract to C&S Landscapes. Westlake's current agreement with High Tech allows for assigning the contract, provided that it is approved by Westlake's board. So I move that we approve that assignment.
Second.
Second by Bonnie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the Journal. The Journal staff recently approached the board and senior publishing about improving, excuse me, the quality of the monthly journal by going to digital printing. After reviewing the details of the switch and seeing the difference in quality, the recommendation is to proceed with the change. I have the contract from senior publishing that we're going to vote on tonight. But we did see, Bonnie being liaison to the Journal, we did see, in fact, the difference in the digital versus what we've had. It really brings it out well. So I would like a motion to approve that contract, or I'm sorry, the change to the digital printing. Bonnie moves? Okay.
Second.
Oh, wait a minute, you're right. Hold on.
cost.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. I have to. Page 2, okay. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. The cost, there's a cost to switch over. We were getting $1,100 from senior publishing. That will go down with the digital printing to $100 per month for the digital printing. So, and that will be, and I spoke to Kevin, one of the owners of senior publishing, and we're going to see how that works out. If everything looks as good as we saw the sample copy, we'll continue. If not, we'll just go back to where we were. Sorry about that. I was on page 2. Right. Right. It's not costing us anything. We're just going to be getting less per month. So I need a motion to approve. Bonnie?
Yeah.
And second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, go ahead.
I just want to thank you, Bonnie, for doing this. Moving us into the digital stage where we need to go is a big upgrade, so I appreciate it.
Anyone else? Okay. All in favor? Aye. And any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, Marge, you're up. New business F.
Upcoming budget meeting to approve the budget for 2026, I believe, is on November 20th. It's the Thursday before Thanksgiving. The Finance Committee has already met and is working on it. We'll be meeting again. Steve did a tremendous job of putting it together so we could start analyzing it. There will be a joint meeting of the board and the Finance Committee on Monday, November 3rd, the first
Third.
one, yeah,
Yep.
the Monday, at which time we will be reviewing the details. We are doing something different this year with this budget meeting. We are only reviewing the operating budget and the contributions into the reserve funds. In December, we will be working with the budgets for the items in the reserve study to start determining what needs to get done next year, the funds that are available to do it. So November 20th, we will be approving the budget for 2026, hopefully.
Okay. We got pieces of paper, everything here, okay. October 30th in the Palmer Room. Is it Palmer Room? I think we're going to have it in the Palmer Room. Will also be the presentation of the golf budget. That will be coming on October 30th. Let me just say a few words on the reserve study. It was originally scheduled for tonight to approve it. I moved that back because we asked, as Marge said before, we asked Brian to give us the 5%, 10% threshold. But we met for a couple of hours the other day, the board did, with this reserve study. There's going to be more conversation about the reserve study. This is not going to be an easy decision, and we are determined not to put an undue burden on this community, including us. So we're going to be looking at this in the near future. When I say the near future, next week and the week after, and as long as it takes to make it right. So we will let you folks know when the date will be for the special meeting for the reserve. But I could tell you that, as I promised you in January, we're going to look at everything. We're just not going to say, okay, because as I've been told during the campaign, committees recommend and the board decides. So we make the decisions. Well, we got the recommendation from Association Reserves, we got the recommendation from the subcommittee, the reserve subcommittee, and we got recommendation from finance. So now it's up to us to make that determination, what's best for all of us. And I promise you, we're going to do that before we make any move on that reserve study.
Joe, I have a comment.
All right?
Okay. I just want to let everybody know, there in the executive summary, you saw two contribution levels: full funding, 1.4 million, and then the baseline, which is the minimum you can fund into the reserves. When we post up the 5 and the 10%, you're going to see that the baseline correlates to what is 5 and 10%.
Okay, thank you, Marge. All right, so we come down to the homeowners forum, and the board requests any pre-submitted questions to be submitted by Tuesday, October 21st. I'm going to read those because, believe it or not, I have them, and then we'll open it up to the floor. First question comes from Ted. I can never pronounce. Pelicanos. Sorry, Ted. 11 Inverness Lane. Considering the Board of Trustees' substantial obligations for 2026 and its concurrent committee liaison responsibilities, it may be prudent to evaluate the need for additional support. Should the board vote to expand its composition from 7 to 9 members, does it possess the authority to appoint 2 additional trustees without a community vote? Or would such appointments only require ratification by the BOT membership? And Ted, per the association's governing documents, Setting the number of sitting board members is a sole discretion of the Board of Trustees. It's a fair question right now with everything, because we've been doing a lot of heavy lifting this year. But we're just in the first year of having 7 of us. So should this or the next board feel additional help is needed, we would work with the association's attorney to determine the best way to accomplish it, just like we did when we went from 9 to 7. Susan, oh, wait a
Joe,
minute,
can I add something?
Go ahead.
Just from a practical point of view, too, if we were even to agree with that and start the process to increase the number from 7 to 9, the point of the question was because of the volume of work facing us in 2026, we would not get anything accomplished in time to help us in 2026.
In 2027, there will be 2 board seats up. The way this works, it's 2, 2, 3, and that's how you come up with everybody having a 3-year term, rotating term, and electing it. So next year, we are scheduled for 2 seats up.
All right. Bill and Colin, I'm going to take this instead of passing this back and forth, all right? This comes from Susan Adelson, 66 Marion Lane. When will the BOT provide or hire an assistant for Suzanne Smith? This is something that we are planning to do. This is something that Bonnie has been working very hard to accomplish, but with no results, unfortunately. With the ballroom out of commission, it's helping us a little to buy some time. But they will be back on the stick trying to get Suzanne some help. Second question, what was the total cost of the Ash Pavilion renovation? What is the anticipated completion date? The total for the gazebo, including electrical, benches, pavers, power washing, was $46,890. The next question, when will the last remaining part of the asphalt path going from the bocce court to the pool plaza also be sealed and repaved? The asphalt area of the clubhouse front of the bocce will be done within the next few weeks. She got 4 questions. What are the plans for the total renovation of the destroyed grassy area around the new racket courts? Will the irrigation system be installed there? The irrigation in front of the courts nearest the parking lot has been taken care of and is operational. The grassy area will be augmenting the current grass put in by the contractor with some fescue grass that will improve the appearance. And the board will be working with B&G in 26 to add some additional landscaping improvements. I just need to ask the question, folks, didn't we approve the trees to go in this year? No. We didn't. All right, my bad. Sorry about that. All right, so now we were going to open up the mic to anyone who would care to. We did that already. Yes, we did that. So anyone would like to come up and say something? Just name and address, please, Jerry.
Jerry Ferrantino, 34 Wild Dunes Way, Jackson, New Jersey. An integral part of the operating budget is the funding of both infrastructure and golf reserves, which are based on the last reserve study and any updates midterm. Will the new budget include the new funding levels for the reserves, either at baseline, 5 or 10%, or full funding, or will you be sticking with the last version levels based on the 23 study update?
You want me to answer that? Jerry, if you look into the reserve study, there is a 30-year plan. It shows the level of funding for each year for 30 years and what should be put in and what should be expended.
No, I understand that. But I'm saying, is it the new study that was presented last week that you're going to be using that 30-year sketch, Or is it from the last study that we have intact?
The last study, no. The last study, once the new study is improved, that is what goes into place.
Yes, but you're talking about completing the budget by November 20th,
That's
and you're
correct.
talking about having other conversations about the reserve study that we just had last week, and it's going to take time to go through all the comments and representations. So what are you doing first, the reserve study or the budget?
We're going to be working, well, not tomorrow, but we'll probably be back on it Monday to work on this reserve study. We understand the time schedule that we have. We have to get the reserve study squared away first.
And Jerry, also, the board can decide at what level to fund the reserves. I mean, the reserve study says we can, we've got wiggle room to what we can do, as we did last year when we upped the amount going into the reserves from what the study said.
Again, I just want to know whether you're using the reserve study document from last year, or you're trying to get the reserve study that you presented last week into the new budget.
We are
Because you're saying you're just working on an operating budget.
We are trying to put into the budget the necessary funding we need to move forward.
We'll get that reserve study is first on the list. We have to base the budget on the new reserve study.
And the new reserve study includes $6 million of improvements that you
That's
can-
recommendations.
Recommendations, but, okay.
$6 million, I think, for next year, it's $1.2 million.
Recommendations.
Is that my 30-second warning, or am I
That's
time's
the
up?
bell. I don't know where the bell came up with. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
All right, Guy.
Hi, Monty Levine, 24 Pebble Beach. I never heard of such a stupid figure that you guys gave for a gazebo. What are they putting in there, gold? Did you guys go out and speak to contractors? That's a crazy figure for a gazebo.
It was taken care of last year when B&G went out, and they got the quotes, and they recommended the vendor that we used, and we did the entire area, though. I mean, it wasn't just something, we did the concrete pad, we did everything.
Joe, $46,000, that's ridiculous. You could go out and get better contractors and cheaper. I mean, that's a big figure. We're complaining about we don't have money, and you're throwing $46,000 into a gazebo? Come on, Joe. That's my question. Oh, sorry. Okay, my other question is for you, Colin, and the board. Every time we have these meetings, which are very important, like the one you're going to have coming up, is the lawyer there, our lawyer.
Our lawyer will be here when we talk about the reserve study.
But what about when he's going to talk about the clubhouse, the deck, whatever hasn't been done? Oh, we're paying him a good salary.
We
right?
have asked, and they will be starting to attend the meetings. We have asked that. We have 2 lawyers now assigned to Westlake,
Right.
along with their colleagues. I didn't feel that they would need it tonight, but they will be here for the next meeting.
No, I'm not saying tonight. I'm saying, like Colin said, they're going to have a meeting, right? About the deck, about the other things.
You mean about them sitting in with
The
us?
insurance company, I think, and a lot of people agree, our lawyers should be there to represent us.
Well, before you leave, what we're trying to do is, we're trying to come up with a settlement that's agreeable to both without getting attorneys involved, because it's only money.
Yeah,
If
but
we
it's
can
been-
make a settlement that's agreeable to both,
Joe, wait, how long has this been going on? Quite a while, right?
it's not, it seems the process has been taking time. We haven't paid them since last May, 2024.
And does our lawyer ever tell you guys anything to try to settle on?
We've been working on it.
Wait, Joe, that's why I feel he's getting a good salary, he should be there. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you.
Norm Kirsch, 40 Baltusrol. Question for Bill. You mentioned $1.3 million for the new vendor for the golf. What did we spend in 2025?
I don't have the exact figure for 2025, but I can tell you that the new vendor's proposal is $120,000 more than what Lynx proposed for next year. So comparing it with what we already spent this year isn't fair. You have to compare it with what the competition was proposing to do next year.
Okay.
It will be $120,000 more than what Links proposed.
Does the new contract call for a Class A Pro?
For what?
Class A Pro.
Yes.
Okay. I also, the pond maintenance is being moved from the operating into the contract because they are taking that over. So that expense was not in the Lynx contract.
Okay. Also, to my knowledge, the new vendor has not contacted the existing Pro and their staff.
That's
Can
not
you-
so.
No?
That is not so.
Okay.
They have already had conversations with all of the senior staff.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Raymond Cohen, 6 Hazeltine Lane. First, I want to say I think it's a disgrace that you have come up with a budget for a new golf company even more than the one with that we had. Second of all, I just don't understand it. I just don't get it. The way this community, the shape that this community is in. Now, I have no idea what the other bids were, the other companies, but why on God's earth would you want to spend more money in the position that we're in? I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Don't you people know that we want to save a little bit of money, not keep spending and spending and spending? We don't have it, and you keep spending it. It has to stop. Has the board increased the limit of outside golfers to 90 that everybody is saying has to be done? Has it been done yet?
The board has approved the 90 non-resident members, yes.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Yes,
And-
yes, we have.
In another answer to your question, the new vendor has contacts and should substantially increase the number of outside members because of their contacts. They've already brought in new members for next year.
All right, Rich, you're up.
All right. It's just a question. I know-
Name and
Oh,
address.
sorry. Rich Fontana, 114 Wild Dunes Way. Thank you, Joe. It's, when I looked at the reserve study, it's just a simple question. Now that we know what we hope the insurance company is going to refund us, I was going to make up a fake story and say that I spoke to Joe the night before, and he told me he was going to contribute $1 million because he thought that's what it would cost to bring back all the stuff that we lost in the ballroom. And I said, Joe, we don't really need the $1 million because we already have accrued $30,000 in a lot of those assets within the clubhouse. And I thought of this only because of when we did the presentation, he used a good example of paint. He said to somebody who asked the question about the cost of everything, the tiles and the painting, and he gave a good example. He said, we have to paint every 10 years. Now, we could have accrued 80, let's say it was 10,000, he said. He said, let's say we already accrued 8,000 of that. So we're going to have to accrue another $2,000 more. I'm just using personal past experiences. So when something is destroyed, we've accumulated a lot of expenses already to replace the air conditionings on the roof, to repaint the ballroom, to put new floors down. That carpeting I know is very expensive, but we've been accumulating revenue for that going forward. So let's take the paint as an example. If I paint, and it's paid by the insurance company, the $80,000 goes back into the cash reserve.
Correct.
And I start out at zero. Now I have 10 years to accumulate $10,000. So from a cash standpoint, I'm going to accumulate $1,000 for that painting, and I'm not going to touch that $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So I'm going to add another $10,000 to the reserving revenue. And it's the same with everything. When I looked at the reserve study, it was hard to find it. And it could have been because we didn't know what we were getting back from the insurance company. And so besides going to a 5% and 10%, Are we looking about what the accumulated, he's saying we've accumulated X amount of dollars. We have. But then he puts an expense against it. In other words, we got to repaint. So I'm just curious when he did, he might have done it and I just can't see. So it's a matter of how much money have we already accrued towards all the things that we're going to replace. And then what happens, you know, the reserve study has one purpose, to be able to pay for something, whatever the expense is, there's cash to cover it. That's the basic premise of any reserve study. All the other stuff is just words. So when I look at it, I'm saying I don't see it. So that was one question. The second question I had, same with the reserve study. If you take a look at, I wasn't criticizing the restaurant. I wasn't somebody who was defensive of the restaurant. All the things that he has in that list for the restaurant, prep table, refrigerators under that table. I had a consulting company. When I took an assignment, whatever the cost of it was, I absorbed the cost and I know what I was going to have to pay to do the job more effectively. I'm just wondering, has the board approved all of the things in that list? I don't know. And if you haven't, because once you buy it, you got to reserve for it. We have the pickleball court. It cost us X amount of dollars. That's cash. But now I got to reserve for fixing it and replacing it. So year one, it's a pretty good sized number I'm adding into that cash flow need. These are just questions I have. I don't know the answer, and maybe I missed it when I looked at the reserve study. It wasn't clear. Because if the starting balance, whatever that number is, put another $1 million on it. Put another $1 million on it and take out the expenses to replace all that stuff over the 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. The last thing, golf. If you look at it, the biggest expense in that reserve study is to replace the fairways. I don't know anybody that replaces fairways. You maintain it and improve it. But going out, he's building up to put $6.7 million, I don't know how many years out, for full replacement. I find that questionable.
Well, that's exactly why we're not voting on it tonight, Rich. There's a lot of questions that we have.
But I'm just saying
All right,
that.
I can answer some of his
Go
questions.
ahead, that'd be great.
Number one,
Yeah.
the board never approves a project listed in the reserve study where we don't have the funding for it.
So in other words, when he
And that
said.
we don't have sufficient funds at the end of the
Mark,
year.
that wasn't my
We are
question,
constant.
Mark.
Well, you were asking, whatever. Also, there is no money in the 2026 reserve study for the ballroom. If you look at all the items, you will find
No,
that the ballroom is not there.
Marge, I wasn't really saying that. I was really saying the cash that's available to start with. In other words, it's not like a small number. It's $1 million. And then when you go to year 2 and year 3 and year 4, he's starting to accumulate the replacement of those things.
So that when it needs to be replaced, there are sufficient funds. You're building up.
You have to put back, Marge. You want to help me explain this?
No, I'm not online right now.
I'm not questioning, Marge, I'm not questioning that you approved any of this stuff. I'm
You know-
just trying to get a clarity of what I'm looking at. I'm not criticizing anything about the reserve study or about the board. I'm just trying to understand the process he's done.
Oh, the process he
And the
does.
process, that's my question, Marge.
What the process is, he looks at every single item that belongs in the infrastructure. He
Marge,
looks at
it's
the
not where it belongs,
lifespan.
it's when you charge money for it.
But first, you have to identify the items. Once they're identified, he then looks at the life of the item and where we're at.
I get
And
it.
he's building up each year, like he said.
Marge,
the
I
10
get that point. That's not my question. My question is, he says we're starting out with $1.92 million. Is that what he's saying?
No, 1.2 was the
Whatever the
estimate.
number is. Somebody just put $1 million back in my pocket.
I'm
Rich,
sort of
some of
sorry.
those questions too,
Yeah.
once we have that special meeting, because we're still looking at it, and I'm not trying to cop out at you, but we
I
have,
don't-
we have our own questions, and that's why we're looking at
Listen,
it.
I couldn't see an answer in his diagram. That's the only reason why I'm answering the question. I know you're going to review it. I just think it's a question.
Well, we already went back with some questions, so.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Hi, Joe Palumbo, 44 Crooked Stick Road. I don't know how closely you followed my campaign or social media. I met with a lot of homeowners, and I think you can boil down their largest concern is the small amount of people who are involved in all the decision-making here. And my question is, given the fact that there's 3,000 mostly intelligent people, I assume, in our community, do you have any plans to include or enlarge the group of people who would be involved in the process of coming up with decisions about how we do things?
Well, Joe, we have committees that help us and guide us along. They give us suggestions, you know that. When it comes to making decisions, right now, there's 7 people on the board that have to make the ultimate decision. But we do look at all of the committees. They give us their recommendations. We don't make a move without the recommendations. Fine, as I said before, the reserve study, we have 3 recommendations. We have one from Associated Reserves, one from the subcommittee, and one from Finance. And now it's up to us to make that decision. That's how an HOA works.
Well, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Last week, I had a conversation with Lance Leibowitz, who has a lot of experience in HOAs and a lot of financial experience. And we were going to ask you if you could kind of form an ad hoc committee of people, homeowners, who had that kind of experience to kind of help figure out ways to lessen the pain that's ultimately going to happen when the HOA fees and the assessments come around. Are you open to anything like that?
We, you know, to come up with an answer right now, I'm not going to, and I'm not going to cop out on the answer, but right now, the way our structure is, in that particular case, we have a finance committee that looks at what we need to do financially, and they give us their opinions on what should be done and their recommendations, and we take it from there to try to make the best decision we can. It was difficult to come up with, and that's why we're not doing anything on the reserves. It's difficult to come up with a conclusion when you have 7 people. We have a structure where you have a pyramid. And, you know, right now, the board is there. We take the recommendations from any of the committees, including golf, finance, all of them. And then we have to make their decisions based on the recommendations.
How many people are on the committees typically?
How many people are what? I'm sorry?
On a committee, typically? how
There's no exact number. It could be as much as whatever it takes.
But I think we should let you know that there are close to 200 residents from Westlake who serve on committees.
And I appreciate all their work, and I appreciate all your work. I'm just wondering why 200 is a magic number when there might be 3,000 people coming up with
Well, 200
ideas.
isn't the magic number. It's just what we have right now. And in fact, it was in the manager's report asking folks if they're interested in joining any of the committees for next year, get their applications in.
Okay. So I'm assuming then that the answer is no. You have no plans to expand the home.
Right now, no.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
and by the way, congratulations to the board.
Thank you.
Jerry Ferrantino, 34 Wild Dunes, still Jackson, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to what Rich was asking you, and sorry, with the other conversation, I kind of forgot my train of thought. But you had stated that the board doesn't spend any money it does not have, correct? When it comes to capital work, et cetera, if the funds are not available. We also stated that we're going to be doing the budget and finalizing the budget by November 20th. And you answered my question, Joe did, that you would be considering the reserve studies prior to that in order to get to where you need to be on the reserve study and know what the funding levels are. isn't the reserve study in its current form, whether it's a 5%, 10%, or full threshold reserve study, going to provide the extra $6 million of funds in the account so that you can spend it because it's there when it's available? So you're kind of making your capital improvement decisions today based on the reserve study today and hoping to have the money in the account today so you have no problem spending the money tomorrow. AKA a savings account, which is, by the way, the exact same thing why we had this problem last year with the board wanting a $30 or $75 increase, and a couple of people walked out.
Let me start.
You're putting the cart before the horse, is what I'm
No,
saying.
we're not putting the cart before the horse, because when we approve the budget, we are approving the funding level into the reserves.
I agree.
Then there's going to be another meeting where B&G is going to review all of the items in the reserve study. Should we be doing these next year? If not, why and when are we pushing them out? What do we need to do?
Cart before the horse. The
No,
cart
it
being
is
the
not.
funds and the horse being the decisions
No,
about what you're
because
going to do with the money.
We know, I presented, and so did our chair of finance, an infrastructure budget. That had never been done until last year. And the reason we started it was because we no longer have the $5, $6, $4, $3 million sitting in the infrastructure fund. So we had to carefully watch what we were spending our money on. This is going to roll through to next year as well. You have to look at where you're at in the beginning of the year, what's coming in.
I understand
and
how a
how
budget and a
much.
reserve study does.
Right.
I've developed 30 HOAs over my 45-year career, okay? So I understand a reserve study, and I understand how a budget works and how an HOA works. I'm still saying you're putting the cart before the horse with your statement about that you're not going to decide on how to spend the money until you have it. So you're trying to get the money first via
No, we're-
inserting it into the reserve study so that you get a $6 million funding, whether it's over 2 years, 4 years, or 5 years. Then you'll have the money in the savings account so we look nice and flush, and then you'll decide as things go how we spend it.
What are you recommending? Doing a project before we don't have the money?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, I'm glad we're in
I'm trying to
agreement.
tell you that you should know what projects you're going to do and when you're going to do them and when you have to do them before you ask the community for the money to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, thank you.
Bill Trupia, 41 Wingfoot. Quick question, though. Two of them. One, do we know exactly what caused the famous leak in the ballroom? I've been wanting to know that one. Two, if there's any cash laying around, maybe we could throw in some new bocce courts. But that's my only two questions.
Okay.
There's 356 people play bocce.
Oh, we know that.
And we did everything all down the line up until bocce.
Well, Lauren and I, let me talk bocce first, and then I'll turn it over to
About the
Colin.
leak, really, if you could do that.
Lauren and I did, in fact, meet with Alpidius and looked at the conditions of the bocce court. And they made recommendations to the vendor. We're going to be looking at, there were some of the things that they had asked us for as far as drainage, better drainage, and other things, and we promised them that we were going to be looking at that come spring, because we can't do it now. And as far as I'm concerned, and I don't know if Lauren agrees, but those courts look terrible right now, so we are going to be doing that. And now, the question comes up, we need to get vendors, we need to get quotes, and then we'll take it from there.
That's good.
So I'll talk, Colin can work on or at least try to answer what exactly the problem was with the
School of Arts
ballroom.
leak.
So, can you hear me? Is that right? It's coming through?
The leak.
It's not on.
Oh, I have to talk louder. Okay, that's better. So the actual leak was caused by the roof drains, which were replaced from the original roof installation, and the replacement was done in 2022. It appears from as our engineer's report has shown, that the particular roof drain they used had an inner sleeve, which required to be bolts to tighten the gaskets against the existing drainage pipe, and they were loose. The problem was accentuated by there was a blockage in the drainage pipe, and you probably see the pipe sticking out of the wall near the front entrance on the left side as you come out of the building. That is a temporary measure to relieve the pressure on the pipe, so the water discharges onto the grass instead of going down into the yard drainage system. The loose bolts were identified and tightened, and the leak hasn't occurred again. It will require probably yearly inspections to make sure they don't become loose as well. The debate is, why were they loose? We suspect it's bad workmanship on part of the contractor. The insurance company have told us that they're probably not going to pay for the actual roof repair, which in overall, including the engineering, was about $30,000 out of the total claim. So it's a fairly small piece of that. They may well be subrogating the claim against the roofer, and we would have the opportunity to join that claim to try to recover the $30,000, which we're probably not going to get from the insurance company.
And the roofer removed the piping?
He didn't
Put the
remove
new
any
roof on?
piping.
Did somebody remove the piping to put the new roof on?
He didn't remove any piping. The whole roof, the new flat roof specification, which was engineered by FWH, required them to replace the roof drains from the original, which were welded in place.
And they did that?
They did that.
Oh, and they failed to tighten up the joints?
With a specified
Okay.
system, which
I got
required
you.
tightening.
Finally, we know what the leak was.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Diane Hurdy, 6 Pebble Beach. I have a question for Marjorie with regard to the new golf contract. You said something about the pond wasn't, and now it is. I didn't really understand that, so can you expand a little bit?
The pond maintenance used to just be in the operating, not in the golf, and we took care of it. Spirit's coming in and taking that over. So that $80,000 is being moved out of the area we had it in the operating. Wasn't in the golf. Even though it was for the golf, it was sitting someplace else in the financials. It is now part of that contract. They are taking over.
Wasn't it always part of that contract?
No.
Hi, Dave
My
Whalen, 1 Pine Valley Road.
Maybe
The golf, first of all, it's not pond maintenance. It is the trimming of the perimeter of the ponds. B&G is still responsible for the aerators and bubblers, et cetera. When the contract was negotiated years ago, it was set up with 2 separate numbers. And I know there are 2 separate numbers, and I know you know it as well,
Yeah.
because I used to sign a check every
Right.
month, and it had to go in just like that, 2 links for $75,000, $80,000, or whatever. And that was what they were charging us to trim the ponds. And during that time, of course, they weren't doing it. Now, I'm going to jump a little bit here. Madge, if you look at the contract information on Spirit, it says, and I'm going from memory now, they're going to trim the ponds several times. That's not good enough. They got to tell us 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. It has to be laid out. We've always had an issue on that. But that money is currently sitting in a B&G line that'll get moved over, that $80,000 that we paid every month. And I'm happy to see that it's going to be picked up by Spirit. It just has to be.
Yeah, I was just trying to explain, because they were talking about the increase in the from links up, that part of that relates to an expense that was really already sitting there, but now is part of Spirit.
We have a sidebar.
Okay.
All right.
So now, I have another. Let's go back to the reserve for a second. And I do not consider myself an expert by any means, even though I've learned a lot. Okay, I know we have a budget coming up. I know what our last reserve says. If you look, if anyone here goes online and looks at our current reserve study, guys, throw in a cup of coffee before you do it because it's going to put you to sleep. But you will see different lines where you light fixtures and carpeting and this and that. This room, that room, the other room, different years. The big difference we see right now in the reserve that we're considering is that Association Reserves has zeroed out the cost of updating or maintaining all the rooms in the clubhouse to include the multi-purpose room, which is the ballroom. And they've taken it out. If you look in 2026 and 2027, it says zero, all the way down.
Right.
And then in 2028, it's all back in there. And I don't even know the number, it's a big number. So it's all in there. But what really concerns me is that in 2038, it's right back again. We're saying in 2038, and it's an increased number. If you look at the number, it's higher. It says in 2038, we're going to do the whole clubhouse again. And then it says in 2048, we're going to do it again. Look, I'm not an expert. I don't think we need to do everything every 10 years. We just don't. My question is, if we get to this point, can we get to the point where we have to put a budget together, and we all know that there's two big lines on that budget. They're right down at the bottom of the budget. It says infrastructure and it says golf. Two big numbers. Can we put a placeholder in for the 2026 budget to allow us to move forward? We know we're going to update the reserve in 2026. We know we're going to update it in 2027. We're paying for that in our contract. It's there. That's my only question. Can we consider putting a placeholder in so we can move forward? Because Jerry's right. We can't do a budget without a reserve. And the reserve I look at right now, it's just not working. It is not working. And
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said before. That's why we're not voting on it tonight.
Okay, and I want to make a comment on this. One of the reasons we're in the situation we're in today is the reserve study was not followed. Many items in the old reserve study, and I have a listing, I think some of them come up to 1.3 million, were due to be done. They weren't done, but the money was spent elsewhere. So that is right. So we don't have the money to do the things that the reserve study said we should have done.
But okay, we don't have the money. We spent it elsewhere.
Right.
Who spent the money?
Absolutely.
Nobody in this room spent the money, and nobody is saying we spent money improperly. Not at all.
I don't believe anybody would literally go in and do something they thought, improperly.
That's
but
why
what was not done is that nobody was looking at what wasn't getting done. Nobody was looking at the infrastructure budgets. That is why we have started to analyze each and every one of the budgets and what's in the reserve study. So I'll tell you there are various things in the reserve study next year. You know and I know, B&G may recommend pushing it forward. But it doesn't mean that the money disappears. It means we still have to reserve the money. Now, if we move stuff that's out there forward, then we're spending money earlier. You have to look at the ins and the outs. That was never done.
Hey, Dave.
Listen, the reserve study is a recommendation. We all get it. We all know that when we did our paving, we pushed paving out. There's money in the reserve study right now for paving the north, and we're not paving the north for a couple of years. We can move things around. We know that. We know that.
And I agree
Dave,
with you.
hold on,
But
Marge.
you have to
Hold
know
on,
what you're
hold
moving
on.
back and forth, that's all.
Dave, could I just ask, because we're going to have a special meeting on the reserves, because we're not really prepared, we're trying our best to, and I'm not, listen, again, I'm not copping out, but we're trying to get that reserve study to a point where we have the answers. Because listen, we've listened to the community also, we're not blind to that. It may seem to, we're not, we're certainly not. We heard everybody during the reserve study presentation. We have homework to do. Whether it's a lot or not a lot, Jerry, we have homework to do.
Mark Rosenwald, 21 Barton Creek. Perennially, we've had a problem with the golf course. And at the last meeting, I listened to Bill talk about the new vendor, and he alluded to the fact that they're going to be the savior of the golf course. Well, they're not going to be, number one. You have a $130,000 increase over the existing contract. Now, to bring in new members, I remember, and you remember, Joe, that we got a tremendous pushback from the community when we wanted to increase the numbers, number one. Number two, we never reached the number that we increased it to. Now you've increased it to 80, when in fact we've had a reduction, 90, we've had a reduction in the number of outside people playing in Westlake. And even if you brought in, the new vendor brought in members, they would have to bring in 30 new members just to make up the differential. In addition, we don't know what the escalator is over the course of the 5 years. How can you possibly agree to something that you don't know the cost of? So, pardon? We don't know the escalator on a yearly basis. But be that as it may, the new vendor is not going to solve your problems. They can make you all the promises in the world. I know, Joe knows, we've dealt with links. We know how the promises go away. And I can't see that the new vendor is going to do anything different. And if you keep the same staff, which legally they do not have to do because they don't fall under the guidelines of the people that are protected under the federal and the state statutes, you will have the same result.
Thank you, Mark.
Bonnie Rosenwald, 21 Barton Creek. First of all, I had asked one that I find out how much it costs for the attorney to write those disgusting letters to our residents. I never got an answer. Also, you very cavalierly talked about the Journal and that it wasn't going to cost us anything, but you failed to tell everybody you were going to lose $12,000.
I said, excuse me, it was on page 2, because what I'm looking at is back and forth, and I'm usually looking at something flat. As soon as someone said something, I excused myself, I apologized, and I read the back.
Did you say that we were losing $12,000 a year?
I said it went from $1,100 to $100
Right,
a month,
but
yes.
people don't really get that because I'm sitting with people and I hear them talking. Specifically, we are losing $12,000 a year. As far as the golf course is concerned, you blame it on, and when I say you, general you, not specific people, the fact that we have an aging community, we have this problem, we have that problem. The reality is there are solutions, and you have to think out of the box. Joe, I gave you a solution. It is a solution that works all over this country at different golf courses. And people, and respectfully, people who say, well, they don't want to deal with the golf course and they don't want to pay for it because they don't play golf. Well, I didn't go to the pool for years and I paid for it, and I definitely don't play bocce, and I never step foot on the tennis courts or the pickleball courts. No, I don't play horseshoes, I don't play mahjong, I don't play cards, I barely go to the restaurant, I definitely don't go to the bar. So, okay, so I don't use the facilities, but I am extremely, extremely happy to pay my fair share because, oh, let me think, I bought into an HOA. I willingly bought into an HOA. I bought into to a development that as you drive in, it says very clearly, Westlake Golf and Country Club. And you could ignore the fact that we don't play golf. I don't play golf. Mark didn't play golf until years after we moved in. So we were paying, and that's fine. And there are solutions. And it would not only solve the problem, it would generate money for the development, and it would make the golf course used. And it would make it a place that we would love, and it would also beautify it for the people who don't play golf, who live on the golf course, who want to go outside and look at a beautiful golf course instead of brown, crappy grass and dead trees and dead bushes and everything else you could think of that's not correct with a golf course. So you're going on the assumption, and again, when you talked about the new contractor last week, you very nicely said about bringing golfers from his other golf courses and running
Outings.
Thank you, outings for you'd have to run an outing almost every week. And if we go under the same terms as what we had with Links, that would be a disaster. That means people here aren't going to be able to play golf. The other issue is that, we are at a point where we have to count money. And it might sound silly, well, we're losing $12,000 and that's not a lot of money. But every time you lose $10,000 here, $5,000 there, and you don't get that as a revenue, it actually does add up after a while. The issue is this boards, not necessarily you guys, but boards in the past, vendors have come and wrung their hands and said, oh, our insurance, and we need another $30,000, and you guys negotiated down to 10. And we stand here and say to you, follow the contract. We don't follow our contracts. Lynx didn't fulfill its contract. I know that crystal clear. They did not fulfill its contract. As a matter of fact, part of their contract stated that they had to supply all the equipment. Well, one of the boards decided that they were going to buy him a golf cart because they needed it. That's equipment. We paid for it. Where is that golf cart going to be? They wanted the tining machine. Not only did we buy the tining machine, we paid them to use it on top of the contract. This is the stupidity of what goes on. And every time we pay $5,000 for this and $2,000 for that, and another $3,000 for this or that, it adds up to real money. When I sat on the Marlboro board, we applauded ourselves when we saved $500 because at the end of the year, that $500 here and that $1,000 there added up to big money that we saved our taxpayers. We're taxpayers. HOA, we're the taxpayers. You're not doing a good job. March sits here and talks about a reserve study. I'm laughing. I've done 20 reserve studies. I want to know in that reserve study, every reserve study has recommendations. What are the recommendations?
Okay,
It always has it.
all right. Where are the recommendations in the past? Quote me one, and then I'll try to make a comparison to this one.
No.
I'd have
I
to
want to
read-
know
I'd have
what they wrote as the recommendations. We're entitled to that information. I want that published. I want to see where the auditors made the recommendations at the end. They have a recommendation section. They always do. Every auditor I've ever worked with has a recommendation section. No matter how clean they find the audit, they always make a recommendation.
Okay, I think you're confusing a certified audit to a reserve study. We
I know
hired
what a
a
reserve study
company
is.
that is certified to do these studies. I'm not an expert.
At the end, there is always a recommendation. You don't have it, then you should go back
okay,
to the auditors and
I
ask
would
them
like
for
you
it.
to find it in any.
Yeah, eventually. Hello, Frank.
Frank J. Seam, 189 Wild Dunes.
Got to speak into that mic.
Frank J. Seam, 189 Wild Dunes Way. I keep hearing people come up here and talk about what's in the contract, what's not in the contract, what Links did. I'll talk about golf because I know more about that than I do anything else, and what they didn't do. First of all, none of you really know what was in the contract. You can say you do, but you don't. Okay, just wait. My turn. In that contract, I was on the golf committee a few years ago, not now. And I went through every single item in that contract. We had a rubric that went through every single item in that contract. Everything Link was supposed to do was handled on almost a weekly basis by me with the superintendent. They did everything they had to do. They did the ponds based on what we said they were going to have to do, and there was a big discussion about the ponds, I remember that. And we tried to make out, we had to clarify.
Stay with that mic.
We had to clarify what was responsible and was not responsible. In fact, I met with the B&G, the golf committee, as well as people from the board, and we walked around every pond and looked at what had to be done. Then it was agreed upon what Links was responsible to do, and they did it at that point. I'm not saying they didn't do it before, but they did it at that point. In terms of the contract itself and what was in there, there wasn't $80,000 was Links charged us $80,000 because in the contract it did not have money put in there for that. So but they were required to do it, so they charged it, and the board agreed to it, and they paid that money. It was not in the golf contract. The new contract doesn't have the $80,000, has the $80,000 in it, which makes it 132. You take away the 80,000, you now have less of a contract than you had that people were talking about. The Spirit contract that was signed now is very different than the Links contract.
Nothing signed yet.
Well, it hasn't been signed yet, but the Spirit contract that was proposed is very different than Links. Spirit offers a number of things that I don't think everybody here knows what they offer. And so until you find that out, let's stop talking about what we don't know. The Spirit contract, the people involved in Spirit are also highly involved in New Jersey and a lot of golf. They are very community-minded. One of the big things about these people is they want to work with the community hand in hand to talk about the things, how to bring in golfers, how to improve our income from outsiders. Links never did that. That was one of the things. So when you say we're going somewhere it's going to be the same it's not the same. They're very different. I'm also want to talk about, somebody brought up the tiny machine. So let's get that straight. Our golf course was dying. When I first came on the golf committee, you couldn't drive a screwdriver into the course with a hammer on hole number 1. I talked with the superintendent of golf then, and he talked about what we probably should do is get a tiny machine. He borrowed a tiny machine from other courses for a couple of years. It improved the turf of the course immensely. In fact, at this point, our grass is probably healthier than it ever has been because of that. Links, there was nothing in the contract that said Links had to purchase or use a tiny machine. I was very upset when they said they were charging us to use it because I thought they should be not charging at all. The new company will use our machine and is not charging us extra. It's part of the process. So until you come, and when you come up here, please have your facts correct and please know what you're talking about. And I also want to talk about the reserve study. I just heard, that was a very thorough presentation before, not last week. And when you listen to what's in the reserve study, it's very, I don't understand the question about why aren't they telling you what we have to do. It seemed very specific and went on and on and on to nauseam. So I don't understand that. And I also am tired of hearing about, and I'll say this to you, Marge, you made a comment before about what's going on with the past finance committees. I think we have to forget that already. The finance committee, I thought in the past did a pretty good job. I'm not a finance person, so I don't know. But I don't want to hear about what we did in the past. Let's talk about where we are today, where we're going tomorrow, and where we're going in the future. Because unless we start doing that, I won't be here 10 years from now, 15 years from now. I'm kind of old. And I really think the young people in this community have to step up and start looking at where we're going. Because they're the ones that have to live through it. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Frank. And you know, I agree with, listen, the golf presentation, or the rights and the wrongs, Spirit will be here on the 30th also to introduce themselves. They're not going to be here. Why aren't they going to be here?
Their president was named Golf Professional of the Year in Pennsylvania, and their party, they're banging it that night. He will be here to follow.
Okay.
All right, Joe, Mark Rose, 120 Boynton Creek. I just want to clarify one thing. In the specification of Link's contract, I believe it was section B, paragraph, I think, 5, it said specifically that Lynx was to supply equipment, manpower, and supplies. Equipment is very clear. In fact, you know, we sat and argued over $53,000 over supplies that Lynx didn't want to supply, and we held his feet to the fire, and you eventually made a deal, okay? But it specifically said equipment. We paid $40,000 for that machine. We paid $5,000 a year for them to use it. I'm not saying it's not needed. I know it's needed, okay? But to be clear, it was their responsibility. They did not live up to it. That was one of many times that Lynx did not meet the specifications of their contract.
You sure it was part of that conversation?
You were sitting there. You know it.
All right, thank you, guys.
Frank Valenti, 1 Barton Creek Road. First of all, congratulations to all the winners. Regarding what I was asked when I was up on the dais a couple of weeks ago, what would I do, what would I want to do if I did not get elected? And my statement was, I would like to form and/or lead an oversight committee. So my request to the board is that hopefully for 2026, we can form an oversight committee that can oversee what the board does and also not see what the board does. Thank you.
Now, remember, Larry, you're candidate-elect now. So go
Larry.
easy on us, would you please?
Larry Hudson, 28 Pine Valley Road. First of all, I just like to thank everybody who voted for me, and I'm looking forward to working on the board and doing the best I can for Westlake. And just a quick comment back to what Bonnie Sue said. I think she was mixing up the reserve with the audit. The recommendation letter usually comes with after the audit. It is not part of the audit report.
All right, my friends. Make it fast. We're going to get thrown out of this place. Yeah.
All right, this is my question.
Give me your name and address. It's got to be...
Again, Monkey
Again.
Levine, 24 Pebble Beach. Now, we had a committee. We're going to hire this company. They're going to give you recommendations. Painters, carpenters. My question is this. They're going to give you it, but we should have people from the committee or from you go around to different committees and say, look, we're going to have this company, they recommended so-and-so, and find out what kind of work these contractors do. Because you could get a good contractor, you could get a person that's sloppy, okay?
Yes, sir.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Monty. All right, folks, we're going to start bingo again. Arlene, as long as you're willing, we're ready to go.
Arlene Geist, 41 Bay Hill Road. That basically is my question. Do you expect to bring back bingo?
You know, I just...
Not that I'm doing it, I am not doing it.
Well, that's why I've been pushing you to do it, and then the answer would be yes.
No, 14 years is enough. Somebody else needs to step up and do it.
You know,
Actually, 2 people need to step up
I'm
and
going
do
to ask
it.
you, I can ask you in front of everyone here. Let me ask you and maybe Linda, if in fact we put out something for people who are interested in running bingo, would you and Linda being you, of course, running it, would you be willing to interview them with the pros and the cons of running a bingo game?
I would.
That's a deal then. Then I'll ask Steve to
But-
put out,
But the reason I'm asking
Yes.
is because it's now 3 years that we have not had bingo.
right.
I myself do not know what kind of condition the bingo equipment or
That's a good
supplies are
question from
under.
the storm. We'll have to look
Exactly.
at that. We'll have to look at that.
And I think there's over $9,000 line item of bingo. And if bingo is not coming back, can we then put that money to something else?
If bingo doesn't come back, that money
Right,
still
that's-
is there.
that's
I know
why-
that money is still there, but
That's
yeah.
why I'm asking.
All right, but if you're
So I
willing
have
to
not-
interview, then
I
we'll
would-
talk.
I would even be willing, and I have been
All right.
able
You said
to-
that in front of everybody and
Yes,
Zoom.
Absolutely.
All right.
I have
We
not
are blood
heard
brothers
of
now.
anybody that is,
All right.
Okay.
I know where you live.
yes, you do.
All right. I know, you're sitting there quietly. All right, thank you. Okay, folks, I'm going to ask first of all, thank you for all the questions and comments, and we will have a special meeting on the reserve. Anyway, let's go to board comments, and we'll start with Marjorie.
Okay. I'd like to thank all the people who ran. It's great to see people wanting to get involved, and I hope they will all get involved in committees and use their talents on those committees. I am probably going to go down as the treasurer of assessments because last year we faced an assessment, and this year we are facing assessment for next year. I would like to see things differently. I would like to see money built up over time so we do not have to have assessments, so we don't have to hit people up unless there's some sort of a disaster. Well, then we have no alternative. But I would like to see the money in the reserves when it's needed and not have assessments. Anyway, thank you all for coming tonight.
Bill?
The only comment I have is to congratulate the successful candidates. Welcome to the board. And I also want to thank all the other candidates who were not as successful for their interest in helping Westlake. And I hope you continue to demonstrate that interest by volunteering for one or more of our committees. Thank you.
Lauren?
Feels like there's an echo in here. I also want to thank all of you for coming out this evening and for the 12 residents who put themselves out there to run for a position on the Board of Trustees and be of service to Westlake. I know it's not easy, and I was very grateful that I was on the dais last year and not this year. I'm hopeful that you will move forward with your willingness to serve by joining one of our committees. We could certainly use your input and the out-of-the-box thinking that you spoke about when you campaigned. Congratulations to Joe, to Madge, to Larry, and Colin, and I look forward to working with you in 2026.
Bonnie?
I want to wish good luck to the new and continuing board members. It's on.
Yes. You've got to get closer.
It's red. Okay. I want to thank all, good luck to the new and continuing board members and all the others who volunteered to help our community. And I also want to say that this was one of the largest elections, with so many people voted. And I hope the people who are interested will help out in our community in the future.
Colin?
So thank you. I would like to thank everyone who voted for me. It's exciting to be able to continue with what we've been doing. I can promise you that I'll put all my efforts into getting that ballroom back in operation, which is our main focus for the next few weeks. Thank you.
Madge?
I thank the Westlake community for putting their trust in me as a newbie, running for the first time. I am looking forward to really making sure that the contracts that are written are very tight and protect Westlake in every way they can. and hold the contractors to the level they need to be held to. I look forward to, being a part of the next 3 years with Westlake and help it move forward. And let's get past this moment that we have right now, move forward, and really, really make this a great place. Thank you.
And I'd like to just finish up by saying, first of all, thank you for everyone who supported me. I do appreciate every other candidate who ran. The common denominator, as I said in candidates night, is we all have one thing in common, and we all want to make Westlake stay strong and healthy. Let's face it, the next generation of Westlake needs to get the torch, keep running, and keep this place going. Next year's another election. Hopefully what I'll call the new, younger generation Westlake, will some of them be sitting here doing what they need to do to keep us strong and healthy. It was 8 weeks of a lot of conversation, and I called it constructive dialogue. Because at the end of the day, as I said, candidates night, when that gate closes, we're all Westlake. And now that you've put the 2026 board in place, I promise you that we're going to continue to look at everything that we need to do to keep us healthy and strong. And I pledge to you, as I did in January, we will not just make decisions rapidly or off the cuff. Eventually, the decision needs to be made. That's the way it works. But I promise you that it's not a rubber stamp. So again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you everyone on Zoom. And good night. Thank you much.